In a world driven by noise, speed, and constant demands, the real power lies in stillness. When everything feels like it's pulling you in 10 directions, your greatest strength is the ability to stay calm and lead from the inside out. Every man wants influence, but few know that the secret to lasting authority is not louder words or bigger moves. It's mastering the quiet within. Power without enemies, control without conflict, respect without needing to prove anything. This is the Stoic leadership mindset. It's about choosing quiet confidence over ego, emotional self-control over impulsive reactions. It's about becoming unshakable, no matter who doubts you, underestimates you, or tests your limits. The strongest man in the room is never the loudest. He's the one who holds his ground in silence while others react. That's how you build invisible influence, by staying rooted in values, not moods. If you're ready to lead with clarity, move with purpose, and earn lasting respect without making enemies, this video is for you. We're going to break down how to think like a king, not a follower, using timeless Stoic principles that actually work. Like this video. Subscribe if you value discipline over noise, and share this with a man who's ready to lead himself first, because true leadership always starts within. Now, let's begin. One's strength is staying calm when the world isn't. Strength has nothing to prove. It doesn't need to shout, it doesn't need to win every argument, and it doesn't tremble when tested. Real strength shows up in silence, especially when everything around you is loud, rushed, and reactive. Calm isn't what happens when life is easy. It's what you choose when life gets hard. And that's the real test most men fail. Not because they're weak, but because they were never taught that stillness is a form of power. They were told to speak louder, push harder, fight back. But no one told them that staying grounded is harder than throwing punches, and that quiet restraint often takes more strength than confrontation. The man who can stay calm in chaos doesn't do it because nothing touches him. He does it because he's trained himself not to flinch. Like a soldier who doesn't panic when the alarm sounds, he understands that how you respond under pressure defines who you are far more than what you say when things are comfortable. Every time you hold your ground, every time you don't take the bait, every time you let others lose their temper while you keep your peace, you're building something solid. That's quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't rely on others to validate it. It stands on its own, and it speaks without noise. There's a difference between being emotionless and being emotionally unshakable. Some men confuse rage with strength, but fury is fragile. It breaks easily and leaves a mess. Calmness, on the other hand, endures. It doesn't seek control by dominating others. It holds control by mastering self. You've seen it. In the office, when tension rises and someone lashes out, everyone watches the loudest man in the room. But what they remember is the one who didn't lose his cool. Not because he couldn't, but because he chose not to. That's influence. That's presence. That's what Stoic mindset builds. It's easy to react when you feel disrespected. It's easy to raise your voice when someone crosses the line. But what if you didn't? What if instead you stepped back? What if you answered with clarity, not chaos? You're not avoiding the problem. You're refusing to be ruled by it. And the man who's not ruled by problems becomes the man who solves them. Not for applause, not for pride, but because he understands that power without emotional control is always temporary. You can start practicing this in small ways. Let someone else have the last word. Sit in silence when your ego wants to fight. Breathe before you speak. That's how calm becomes your default. Not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger. And when that shift happens, people will notice. Not because you're louder, but because your energy holds weight. In a world addicted to reaction, calm is rebellion. And for a man who wants to lead himself before he leads anyone else, that's where everything begins. 2. Control what you can, let go of the rest. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. Epictetus. A man begins to suffer the moment he believes the world owes him control. Control over people, over outcomes, over how others speak, think, vote, react. But that belief is a trap, because the more you try to grasp what's beyond your reach, the more life slips through your fingers. True peace doesn't come from having everything go your way. It comes from knowing what's actually yours to command, and what never was. That's where Stoicism draws its line. between what belongs to you and what doesn't. You can't control traffic. You can't control your aging body. You can't stop the weather, the economy, or someone else's opinion. But you can control how you carry yourself when you're late, how you treat your health as time changes your frame, how you choose dignity over resentment when others disappoint you. That difference between fighting the world and guiding yourself is what separates the man who stays grounded from the one who collapses under pressure. You see it all the time. A man loses his temper because someone interrupts him. Another spirals because his plan didn't go as expected. And yet, another nods, adapts, and keeps moving, calm, not because life is easy, but because he's no longer hostage to what's outside his domain. That man doesn't carry frustration like armor. He carries clarity, and that's what makes him unshakable. But most men learn the hard way. They burn years trying to bend the world to their mood. They get angry at what others post online, obsess over their boss's moods, and feel defeated when the news turns grim. They spend precious energy fighting shadows instead of directing it where it actually matters, into building discipline, showing up for their family, and aligning their behavior with their core values. Because that's the real power, emotional discipline anchored to action. Not the illusion of control, but the strength of inner order. There's freedom in that. The moment you stop trying to fix what was never yours to fix, you reclaim your energy. You get lighter. You focus sharper. You begin to live with a kind of focused intensity that's rare in today's world. A man who knows what belongs to him and lets go of the rest. Not with bitterness, but with stillness. And from that stillness, he builds. Start with what's simple but not easy. When something irritates you today, a missed call, a rude comment, a delay, ask yourself, is this within my control? If it is, act. If it isn't, release it. Let it pass like a cloud through your sky. Do that once a day, then again, then again. That's how you stop reacting to life like a victim and start leading yourself like a man. You'll never control the world, but you'll always control your next move. And that's enough, when your mind is clear. 3. Discipline over emotion builds unshakable confidence. Confidence is often misunderstood. It's not about being loud or having quick answers. It's not about dominating a room or demanding attention. Real confidence runs deeper than that. It's built quietly, beneath the surface, through discipline. The kind of discipline that lets you feel an emotion without acting on it. That's where true strength begins, in the gap between what you feel and what you choose to do with it. Most men were raised to either bottle emotions or explode with them. Neither path builds clarity, and neither leads to peace. But a man who trains himself to lead with principle, not impulse, builds something more enduring. Quiet confidence that doesn't depend on mood, approval, or circumstance. Emotions come fast. Rage, jealousy, fear, pride. They demand to be heard, and if you're not careful, they'll speak for you. One moment of anger, one careless reaction, and you might burn a bridge you spent years building. That's not weakness. That's lack of training. Your emotions are not the enemy, but they must not be the leader. The Stoics understood this. They didn't reject emotion. They placed it under the rule of reason. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world at the time, wrote daily to inspect his own thoughts, to make sure he remained master of himself. That wasn't therapy. That was mental strength training. He knew that if you don't lead your emotions, they'll lead you, and they rarely take you where you want to go. Think about the last time someone disrespected you in public. Maybe they interrupted, insulted, or dismissed you. The heat rose in your chest, and every instinct pushed you to snap back, to show them you're not someone to mess with. But imagine if, in that same moment, you had paused, just long enough to remind yourself, your reaction is your reputation. What you choose next will speak louder than any insult ever could. That's not backing down. That's emotional self-control, the kind that commands respect without ever having to ask for it. This is where the discipline begins, not in grand gestures, but in everyday choices. When you walk away instead of escalating, when you hold your tone steady in a hard conversation, when you respond to pressure with presence, not panic. These are the micro reps that build inner power, the kind that doesn't flinch when things get hard. And yes, it takes practice. Like building muscle, emotional strength comes through repetition. You fail, you reset, you try again. until eventually calm becomes your default. You can't control when emotion shows up, but you can control whether it drives. And when it stops driving, you start leading. Leading yourself first. Leading others without fear. Leading not by force, but by example. That's when confidence becomes real. Not performance, not ego, but presence. And from that presence, a new kind of man emerges. One who is calm under pressure, grounded in adversity, and impossible to shake. Because he knows that discipline isn't about denying emotion, it's about standing above it. And from that height, everything becomes clear. 4. Emotion is temporary. Character is forever. Emotion is fast. It rushes in uninvited, stirs the mind, and tempts you to act before you've even had a moment to think. It's a spark that can light a fire or burn down a decade of hard work in a single breath. Anger, pride, shame, fear, none of them stay long, but they speak loud. And in the heat of that moment, too many men forget this simple truth. How you feel right now is not who you are, but how you act in that feeling. That writes your legacy. We live in a time where reacting quickly is praised. The internet rewards outrage, social pressure pushes for immediate response, and silence is often mistaken for weakness. But silence is rarely empty. For the Stoic man, it's a strategy, a signal that he understands something deeper. That character isn't built in comfort, it's revealed in crisis. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, wrote not to impress others, but to watch himself. Every night he reflected, not on victories, but on his reactions, his missteps, his internal weather. He knew his emotions didn't define him. His discipline in the face of those emotions did. It happens in the smallest moments. You come home tired, your patience is thin, your son spills a drink, your instinct sharpens. Raise your voice, express your frustration. But then you breathe. You remind yourself that you're not a man who explodes just because the day was hard. You bend down. You clean it up. You guide, not punish. That's not just good parenting, it's personal mastery. Not because it was easy, but because you chose character over impulse. And this isn't just about anger. It's about temptation, jealousy, self-pity. Emotions have their place, but they are poor leaders. When you let them rule, you make short-term choices with long-term consequences. Words said that can't be unsaid. Doors slammed that never reopen. Respect lost in moments you barely remember the next morning. The man who understands this doesn't numb emotion. He steps back from it. He observes it, respects it, but refuses to bow to it. That kind of clarity gives you power over yourself, which is the only kind of control that truly matters. So ask yourself, next time something stings or tempts or throws you off center, who do you want to be in this moment? Not what do you feel, but what do you want to stand for? When the dust settles and people forget the noise, your response becomes the part they remember. The one who stayed grounded, the one who kept his dignity. That becomes your name, your presence, your legacy. You don't need to be emotionless, but you do need to pause. That pause, that tiny space between stimulus and response, is where your strength is born. Use it, let it grow, and let your character speak louder than any emotion ever could. Because emotions fade, but character stays. And the man who builds from that place, he becomes unshakable. 5. Acceptance is power, not surrender. Acceptance has been misjudged for too long. Some see it as weakness, giving up, backing down, letting life walk all over you. But that's not acceptance, that's defeat. Real acceptance is a decision, a form of strength that sees the truth, faces it fully, and still stands tall. It's not about being okay with what's happening. It's about not wasting your energy fighting what you cannot change. There's a sharp line between passive surrender and active ownership of your mindset. And that line defines how free you are as a man. We all try to fix what hurts. We want to rewrite the past, undo the diagnosis, control the outcome. But life doesn't bend to our plans, and the more you resist what is, the more it owns you. That's where most men break, not in the pain itself, but in the refusal to accept its place. Pain resisted becomes suffering. But pain accepted, that becomes fuel. Marcus Aurelius said it best. A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. That's not poetic comfort. It's a challenge. Will you burn down in resentment or burn brighter through it? There's a story of a man named Joe, diagnosed with terminal cancer. No cure, no time left to wait for some perfect day. But Joe didn't spend his final months blaming the world or asking why me. He woke up each day and lived it fully. He He hugged his wife longer, wrote letters to his kids, sat with patients who had already given up and gave them hope. When someone asked him how he stayed so calm, he answered, "Because I stopped fighting fate. I didn't choose this, but I choose how to live with it." That is Stoic strength. Not loud, not bitter, just solid. Clear, free. We don't get to choose every moment, but we get to choose who we are in each moment. That's the quiet shift that changes everything. When you stop needing life to be fair and start deciding to be steady, even when it's not. It doesn't mean you stop grieving. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you face what is, instead of waiting for some future version of life to feel safe. It means you stop trying to escape discomfort and start using it to sharpen your focus, define your values, and build a stronger frame. Next time something hits hard, a loss, a betrayal, a change you didn't ask for, pause. Don't ask why this. Ask instead, what now? That one shift pulls you out of resistance and puts you back in command. Acceptance doesn't paralyze you. It frees up energy for what still matters. Your attitude, your clarity, your next move. And when you live like that, you're no longer ruled by fear. You're no longer stuck in a story that needs fixing. You become the man who can walk through any fire and not be consumed. Because inside, there's already a deeper flame. 6. No one can humiliate you without your permission. Dignity doesn't come from how people treat you. It comes from how you respond when they don't. In a world where one careless comment, one public insult, or one dismissive glance can spiral into anger, shame, or ego-driven reaction, most men lose their footing because they've handed their worth to others. But the truth is simple. Humiliation only happens when you agree to it. What they say matters far less than what you accept. And what you accept becomes the boundary of your power. People will always try to provoke you, some out of insecurity, others out of habit, and a few because they need to feel stronger by making someone else feel small. You can't stop the world from speaking, but you can decide what enters your inner court. Epictetus put it plainly. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. That's not a call to blame yourself. It's an invitation to take back control. You're not a slave to tone, insult, or judgment unless you choose to be. Imagine standing in front of a crowd, making a point in a meeting, and someone throws a cheap shot. You hear the sarcasm, the subtle jab, your instinct tightens, but instead of reacting, you stay still. You breathe. You let the silence expand. That pause, uncomfortable for them, effortless for you, is your quiet refusal. You just told the room, I don't wrestle in the dirt. And without saying a word, you shift the energy. Because that's what emotional self-control looks like in the real world. It's not passive, it's powerful. It's the difference between rising and reacting. The mistake many men make is thinking that silence is weakness, that if you don't defend yourself, you're losing. But that's pride talking. Pride wants to fight every battle, prove every point, win every room. But wisdom knows some fights cost more than they're worth. A Stoic man doesn't respond to every bark. He's too focused on building his legacy to chase small wins. His identity is built on values, not on applause. Think about Socrates, standing before the Athenian court, falsely accused and sentenced to death. He didn't beg. He didn't lash out. He spoke with reason and accepted his fate with calm dignity. That wasn't weakness. It was strength, stripped of fear. He knew who he was. He knew his soul wasn't theirs to shape. That's the kind of strength no courtroom, no insult, no public shame can touch. And that strength isn't reserved for philosophers. You can choose it today. You don't have to clap back, explain yourself, or carry the weight of someone else's opinion. Let your silence say, I don't live at your level. Let your actions say, I'm built on something deeper. Because in a world trained to overreact, composure becomes a statement, not of indifference, but of command. And that command starts the moment you stop giving away your permission. That's when you step into quiet authority, the kind that doesn't ask for validation because it never needed it. 7. Lead with values, not mood swings. A man's strength is not tested in good times. It's revealed when his emotions rise and everything around him pushes for a reaction. That's where most lose control. They follow the feeling. If they're angry, they shout. If they're anxious, they retreat. If they're flattered, they compromise. But mood is weather. It changes fast and often without warning. And if you build your choices on emotion, you end up building your life on sand. Stoic philosophy flips the foundation. Your values lead, your emotions follow. Because when values guide action, storms don't shake you, they just pass. Most men don't choose consciously, they react. They follow what they feel in the moment and justify it later. But leadership, real leadership, starts with doing what's right, even when you don't feel like it, especially then. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." It sounds simple, but to live that way requires daily courage. The courage to pause, the strength to hold the line, and the wisdom to know that doing the right thing once is easy. Doing it every day is what builds legacy. You don't need to look far to find the test. Picture this. You're in a conversation that turns sharp. Someone tries to corner you with passive aggression or subtle mockery. Your body tightens. Pride wakes up. You want to fire back, prove you're not the man to mess with. But then something clicks. You choose to stay calm. Not because you're weak, but because your principles are louder than your pride. You answer the question, not the tone. You maintain control. And when the conversation ends, you walk away knowing that your behavior wasn't emotional, it was intentional. That's the shift. You don't wait for motivation to do what's right. You don't need to be in the mood to show respect, to speak with clarity, to hold your boundaries. You act because that's who you are. That's emotional discipline. And that's where quiet power begins. When the man in the mirror can trust himself. Not just on his best days, but on the difficult ones. Because the world doesn't care if you feel ready. It responds to what you choose anyway. In practice, it looks like small things done consistently. Saying no when you'd rather avoid conflict. Taking the high road when ego wants the last word. Holding your tone steady in a tense room. These are not flashy moves. They won't go viral, but they build something better. Inner credibility. The kind that lets you look back at your day and say, I didn't bend, I didn't fake it, I led myself right. And when that becomes habit, everything shifts. You stop chasing control because you already have it. So don't wait for your emotions to line up before doing what's right. Let the values come first. Let them shape your tone, your choices, your direction. And in a world pulled in every direction by impulse, you'll move differently, anchored, steady, clear. That's how real men lead, not by force, by alignment. 8. Train your mind like you train your body. Discipline isn't reserved for the gym. You know how to build muscle, slow, steady repetition, one rep at a time. But few men apply the same logic to their mind. They expect mental strength to show up in the heat of pressure, even when they've never trained it. Then they snap, break down, drift. Not because they're weak, but because they never built the inner frame to hold that kind of weight. The mind, like the body, needs resistance, needs repetition, needs routine. Otherwise, it softens. And in this world, a soft mind is a dangerous liability. You train your body to lift, to run, to endure. But what trains your mind to stay calm when everything's falling apart? What strengthens your response when your pride is poked or your plans collapse? Most men rely on instinct. But instinct without awareness is just reaction. And reaction without restraint leads to damage. Relationships burned, decisions regretted, peace lost. That's why Stoic practice isn't philosophy on paper. It's daily training. It's meditation at dawn, reflection at night, restraint in conversation, journaling when the storm is inside. Small things, done consistently, like push-ups for the soul. Marcus Aurelius wrote in the quiet moments before battle. He didn't write to impress the world, he wrote to confront himself. Each line a mental rep, each thought a reset. He was emperor of Rome, but his real victory was his ability to command himself. That's the level of mastery Stoicism demands, not perfection, but preparation. And in our time, when distraction rules and attention is fragmented, that preparation must become deliberate. Imagine starting your day in silence, no noise, no phone, just breath and thought. You ask, what do I control today? And answer honestly. You observe the worry, the rush, the emotion, and let it pass. Then you move, clear, directed. That's not mystical, that's training. Or picture the moment before a tense meeting. You feel anxiety rising, but instead of pushing it away, you name it, you breathe through it. You remind yourself, this is not bigger than me, and you walk in not fearless, but focused. That shift? That's practice showing up when it matters. You don't build that clarity in crisis. You build it before. in the reps you think no one sees, in the discipline to sit with yourself instead of reaching for distraction, in the quiet promise to respond, not react. That is the true power of mental discipline. It doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it simply holds. And when others lose their balance, you stay rooted, because you've trained for this. So make it part of your life. 5 minutes of stillness in the morning, a short reflection before bed, a line from Seneca in your back pocket. These aren't grand gestures, they're bricks, laid daily, and over time they form a fortress, not to escape the world, but to meet it well-armed. A man who trains his mind becomes someone the world cannot shake. Not because life got easier, but because he got sharper, stronger, still. Your mindset isn't something you stumble into, it's something you shape, quietly, daily, and with intention. Every thought you choose, every reaction you resist, every principle you protect becomes part of the man you're becoming. This is not about perfection, it's about presence. And in a world where chaos, noise, and distraction pull at you from every angle, choosing stillness is no longer a luxury. It's your edge. Stoic philosophy doesn't promise you an easy life. It offers you something stronger, a way to meet life with clarity, strength, and quiet confidence. You won't control every outcome, but you can always control your inner world. And when you train that world, through emotional self-control, disciplined thought, and unshakable values, you stop reacting like a victim and start responding like a leader. That's real power, the kind no one can take from you. So ask yourself, today and every day, am I training my mind like I train my body? Am I building quiet strength or chasing quick emotions? Because your mindset is your armor, your silence is your stance, and your calm presence, built through repetition and resilience, is what makes you unshakable. Start small. A moment of reflection before the day begins, a pause before you speak, a reminder to act on values, not mood. These aren't minor details, they're the foundation of a life led with purpose. And when you build that life, people notice. Not because you shouted, but because you stood still when the world shook. If something in this message resonated with you, share your story in the comments. What moment taught you the value of calm? What daily habit helps you lead from within? Your words might guide another man searching for the same strength. Because in the end, your mindset is everything. Train it well and let it lead.